March 13th, 2020, a day I think we probably would all like to forget. Tell us what that day meant for you.
I hope I can do this without being emotional. It was a fairly normal day. There were a lot of meetings, just a flurry of activity. I remember Steve Carey stopped in my office before he left that day, and he was like, "What do you think's going to happen?" I was like, "I don't know." And I'm pulling out of our business park, and I get a ding on my phone, and it's my uncle from Iowa to let me know that my father had passed away. And we were estranged, so there were a lot of feelings there, a lot of emotions, and I didn't know how to process that grief at the time. And then Saturday, I got the call from Bill that we probably would not be going back to the office. And then a little later, we definitely weren't going back to the office, and we needed to come in on Sunday and prepare to work from home. So I was trying to gather my things together and my team's things together and get everybody out of the building as quickly as possible. It almost felt like there was a fire alarm, trying to get these things together as quickly as you can to get out. I was just crumbling inside. I didn't know what was going to happen. The world was in such chaos at the time. And, as we look back now, it got even worse from there. People were dying. It was terrible. It was a terrible time. But it really taught me that I had to be brave for the people that I lead. I had to be brave for the people that are in my family and that I love. And I had to be brave for myself because, it was difficult, and it's still difficult for me to think about.
We're going to get real today, guys. We're here with Hope Stocker, Stories from the River. Hope's been with us for over 16 years. This is a conversation I can't wait to have.
Join Charlie Maloof as he explores the personal journeys of Broad River Retail's very own memory makers. Welcome to Stories from the River.
Hope, I'm excited to share some with you. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to do this. I think I slept a total of about 5 hours last night. I just kept thinking about, this is what I'm going to answer. This is how I'm going to do this. So I'm very excited.
Well, we're ready to listen in and learn lots. Before we get going, so I know you've been with us over 16 years, but tell us a little bit about you and your background and your career prior to coming to the river.
I'm married to a great guy, Phil. Phil was actually our kind of side time IT guy for Broad River back in the day. Did a couple of repairs for us. But
I remember that.
Been married to Phil for a long, long time. And we have 3 kids in various stages of life. One is married and on her own. One is in college, and my youngest is in high school. So I'm actually looking forward to an empty nest soon. My background has always been in retail. Probably for the past 30 years, I've been in retail in some way, shape, or form. Before I came to Broad River, I worked for Bilo grocery stores for about 10 years. I did just about everything you could do inside a store. Went into management, was customer service manager, HR manager. Then I moved on and worked for the district. I was an internal auditor and really got more involved in the bookkeeping and the money side of retail. And then I went back into a store, and the HR manager for Broad River then was a customer in that store, and that's how I came to be a Broad River employee. She would come in, we would talk. I helped her out a little bit, and she's actually my neighbor, or she used to be my neighbor. So, and the rest is history. Yeah.
That's cool. I'm so glad that y'all were neighbors and connected, and that she brought you on board and asked you to join the river. And to bring all that retail experience has been, I'm sure, instrumental, which we'll unpack today. But you didn't join Broad River Retail. We've changed our identities and refreshed it a few times. What company did you join?
I joined Ishmore Incorporated and Hillsborough Retail Group. We had 2 separate companies, which then morphed into 3 separate companies. And then in 2018, we brought them all under the same umbrella there for Broad River Retail, and that was part of the Bold Reset.
Yeah. So they're close enough. And so March 2nd, 2006. That was your first day, right? And so I tend to believe most people remember their first day. I know it's been quite a while, but do you remember your first day at Broad River? And if so, what do you remember about that day?
I remember it very well. It's actually a very funny story. Our corporate offices used to be in a four-way cube behind the service counter in Pineville in the very back of the store. The owner's offices were where the mattress gallery is now. They were off to the side there. But usually they'll take you to lunch for your first day, and you'll make those plans and you're going to get to know everybody. So they planned my first day lunch between themselves, and they never told me about it. So it got to be about 12 o'clock, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go out to lunch. I just remember calling my husband from the car, or he was my fiance then, calling from the car, and I was like, these people don't even want to take me to lunch. And so when I get back, they were like, we were supposed to go to lunch with you today. And I was like, oh, well, you didn't tell me that fact. So yeah, it was a pretty memorable day, just for that part of it. And then just getting to know everybody that have since gone on. I mean, I think most of the people that I met that day, they're gone. And then a couple of days later, I think I met with you, and I met Tira, and you two are the two that are still hanging in there.
We're still rocking it out.
Still rocking.
Yeah, I think I was in the broom closet back in Pineville next to the accounting cubes with a flickering light. I think my eyesight got progressively worse each day. We couldn't figure it out. I was like, I think it's this flickering like fluorescent light here. Anyways,
It was good times.
Good times. Great memories or forgettable memories.
Yes.
So, since you've been a memory maker here at the River, what is something that you've learned about yourself or about what you've been able to accomplish that has surprised even you?
My aptitude for systems. I worked in the PROFITS system for 9 years prior to going into STORIS, and I got to learn the ins and outs. And I have a very obsessive personality, I guess you could say. So if I start to learn it, I want to learn it from start to finish, and sometimes that's to my detriment. And I don't know when to let go. But I found that I have a real aptitude for systems, especially PROFITS and STORIS.
Well, I would tell you, everyone needs someone who's got an aptitude for systems in their company. It's invaluable. So, Hope, other than that, what are you most proud of thus far in your Broad River career? Is there a certain accomplishment or achievement that really stands out for you?
Yeah, and it's a fairly recent one. It was the Seahawk acquisition, and then the conversion into STORIS for those teams. Extremely proud for one reason, that I could remember and go back into the recesses of my mind and pull out that PROFITS knowledge, and it was really invaluable to have like Lynn Bass and Tira, who had worked in those systems prior, to fall back on and say, hey, do you remember how we used to do this? But actually pulling out those memories from the back of your mind and using them again and being a help in that time, I was really proud of that. And then again with the STORIS conversion back in early March April, for those two stores, and being, I was on the STORIS core team back in 2014, 2015, but I feel like this time really opened my eyes to what we probably could have done differently back then. I was just very proud and just pleased to be a part of those teams, and very pleased with my performance. It gave me a lot of confidence.
Well, that project was smooth like butter, and we've come a long way. It's good to get redemption on a STORIS conversion and doing it better. We're a different company then, with different people, processes, and we try not to pay tuition twice.
That's right.
So retail accounting, you are the retail accounting manager, a critical role in our company. And so let's talk about that. What exactly is retail accounting?
So retail accounting is any dollar sign that comes through the store. So it's the cash, the checks, the credit cards, your banking, anything that has to do with money that comes through the store. And the other side of that is the financing. Lynn Bass on my team, she's the finance queen. She makes sure the money keeps coming in. We're not leaving dollars on the table. We actually have it's not new, it's years old, but we have a daily audit process to make sure we don't have any of those surprises at the end of the day when it comes time to fund. So anything that comes through that door with a dollar sign on it is retail accounting.
Got it. Well, that is super important. Now, you want to be ironclad on making sure the dollars that are supposed to come in actually do make it to your bank account.
Exactly.
And so again, is that what you primarily oversee and manage, or is it also people on your team?
People on my team, especially. We are 5 strong now, or 6 strong, including myself. And it's not just retail accounting; it's monthly close for the finance team. We also handle AshCom payments that come in, and those are a specialized set of skills that you need to kind of decipher and figure those out with the operating expense and the home delivered portion and direct ship. But we also handle refunds. We handle data entry for posting payments. There's a lot, and I'm very involved in the month end close for the financials too.
Yeah, that's kind of been a relatively new development over the past few years.
It has, and for the first 9 years, I feel like I woke up in 2015, and there have been a lot of changes to the job that I do every single day now, and monthly and weekly, and I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Awesome. So now folks are working from home, working from the office, hybrid. How often do you work from home versus work from the office? I
come in all the time now. I realized about a year into it that work from home life was not for me. My house is not quiet. And I had a kid doing the homeschool, and she's older. She didn't need as much supervision and things like that. I have dogs. Boy, do I have dogs. So I made the decision last year after my vacation that I would come back to the office. And it has been such a help for me and my mindset and my mental health. And it also makes me appreciate home a lot more as well.
Yeah, it's good to have that separation. And really, it's unique to each person. Some people prefer to work at home more. Some people prefer to go into the office and have that kind of separation and give you, like you just said, that appreciation for home or the quiet work time and the separation. So it's very unique to the individual. But what about your team? Are they working from home or
they're all working from home, and they do it beautifully. They love it. 2 ladies on my team, Japrina and Tamika, they had babies in 2019. So when they got sent home, they got to be stay-at-home moms while working as well. And everybody's just thrived. I think it's been a really great thing for them.
Yeah. Who would have thunk that so many people can work from home and do it well and maybe even better, be more productive that way. It's been this one, and we were flexible with it. By the way, if we tried to bring everyone back to the office, they wouldn't fit. Yeah. That's one of the things that we learned. Okay. So so your work-life balance is improved now that you're coming into the office, and some of your team, they love being. Do you still see them though in person? Do y'all come in for monthly meetings or gatherings or?
We see each other once a week on Teams. We have a touch base meeting on Tuesdays to talk about our game plan for the week. I see Stephanie Crane about once a week. She comes in to help me process refund checks, but other than that, it's mostly remote. We have gotten together for things like reviews and birthdays, things like that, but generally they're just at home.
Okay. And can we shift gears to the early days?
Of course.
You're one of the few people who's a familiar face, and people come and go, but it's good to have familiar faces. And so, what do you recall about what are some of your memories or recollections from the early days at the river?
That we moved a lot. We had, we started very humbly. I think when I started, we had 4 stores or 5 stores. We were getting ready to open Anderson, South Carolina. And just the growth that happened in a very short time, not just the present growth that we do, but back then. And for us to grow so much during 2006 to 2008 was really a testament to the leadership that we had and the vision for the company. We
did move around quite a bit, from Pineville to Matthews, to Fairview, to Selwyn.
Back to Matthews.
Back to Matthews.
To Selwyn.
Prologis Park for a little bit, the old DC, and then to Fort Mill. So tell us about the different offices. Give us a couple just stories and memories from the different offices that you can recall.
So like I said before, Pineville was a 4-way cube. You had HR, accounting, you had a marketing person who sat off to the side, and the owners were there. That was fun to be on the front lines there and to actually get to see the customers and be involved in that part of it. then we went to Matthews, and we were up front and behind a partition where customer pickup was. And, I think that was where I really built relationships with the people who I was working with at the time, because we were all crammed in that little space. And then we moved back to the bullpen adjacent to Charlie's office. There were a couple times he had to come out and tell us, keep it down. I know it's Friday, but you got to keep it down. Just I think at that point, being part of, having the whole team together, because we were kind of an island to ourselves when we were up front with customer pickup, but we were back there with QA. Customer service was not too far away from us. It was in the little small room up front there in the Matthews store. But that's when I really felt like I was part of a team and a really good team.
So the Matthews corporate office was just inset in the little Matthews warehouse distribution center, right, which was probably 35 or 40,000 square feet, and only had 4 dock doors and was connected to the Matthews store. It's now Elevation Church in Matthews. But that office space had no windows, and it was in the warehouse. Do you know what Jonathan nicknamed that office? No. The Petri dish. But you know what? We had a lot of great memories together, being crammed in there with no windows and in the back in that little warehouse, the Petri dish. I can't ever get that out of my mind. Okay, and then Jackson was there, and Jonathan and Chris Dolsky and you and Brad Naff, and everyone was there. So a little bit more tumultuous time, because you talked about the growth from 2006 to 2008, and then we hit the Great Recession and kind of pumped the brakes. What are your memories of the time during the Great Recession?
It was another difficult time for us. Everything was kind of unsure what was going to happen with, housing markets were collapsing. If housing markets are collapsing, what does that do for a furniture business and things like that? People were losing their jobs left and right. We were fortunate that we kept our jobs. We were even more fortunate. I think you said this in a meeting we were in together a couple weeks ago. We just kind of had to look each other in the eyes and say, I'm not going anywhere, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to do what I can to make sure that we survive and to make sure that we're still standing. And was it easy? Absolutely not. I mean, there were days you came in and you just didn't want to do it anymore. But you had to keep going. And I think it taught me about, not only our leadership's ability to keep us going and keep us afloat, but my own ability to keep us going. I'm sure most ladies know, the bathroom is your safe space, and I can probably attest that I go in there more often than not and have a cry if I need to. But I was in that building in Selwyn, and I had to go in there, and they just wouldn't stop coming, because it was such a difficult time. It was so uncertain. We didn't know what was going to happen. And I had to go and give myself a pep talk in the mirror. You gotta man up. You gotta stop crying. You gotta stand up straight. Because I had people who depended on me. I mean, I had a team under me at that time, and even though it was only 2 or 3 ladies, they were still people who depended on me, and I couldn't crumble. So that taught me a lot about myself as well.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
And then, so shifting gears, not a lot of people will know what we're talking about on this next topic when I mentioned savvy spaces. But what can you tell us about savvy spaces? What do you remember about it?
Savvy Spaces was a concept for custom and higher end furniture. And the showrooms were gorgeous. I remember we had the opening gala, and you had the press and everybody there. And that was a memorable night. But those showrooms were just amazing. And it was right there beside the Pineville store. And I think there was one up off 85.
Smith Corners.
Smith Corners, for a while. And it was a really good idea. But, people want fast food furniture. They don't want to wait that 45 minutes for that extra marinade on that stuff. So it was a great time. I still think of, I process unclaimed property for the company every year, and up until 2 years ago, I still had to access savvyspaces.co to get some information there. So,
oh my gosh, I cannot believe that. That's I had no idea. Savvy Spaces, high style, savvy price, something like that. Okay, pre-STORIS. So you talked a lot about your 9 years of profit systems knowledge and accessing that during this most recent conversion on Coastal Connection and Project Seahawk. It seems so long ago, almost like the prehistoric dinosaur days. But how did we operate then? What can you recall from those days before we converted to STORIS? So from 2014 and before, what do you recall about how we operated?
Profits was an okay system when it was developed in 1978. What we were using it for was very disjointed. You didn't have reporting capabilities, and if you did, you had to manipulate data so much. And it was built with accounting added on as an afterthought. So all of our accounting was handled inside of QuickBooks. So we would transact inside of Profits and then transfer all that over into QuickBooks. And it was no easy feat. Just the whole disjointedness of it and it not being efficient. And, as we grew, it just really didn't work for our needs. I mean, there were times that it was down more than it was up. And, I think a Black Friday we had that it was down for the better part of the day. And I still don't think we ever reconciled all that stuff to the penny. But just the disjointedness, and looking back on it now, it just makes me really thankful for STORIS and all the capabilities that it has and all of the things that we've been able to develop with STORIS to get us to where we are.
You mentioned SavvySpaces.co, which is like a replica of ShopAshley.net, which we had to build in a bunch of modules and plugins to pull data out of profit systems, like to run our automated payroll or to run our customer service tickets, service orders.
Right.
It was not a cohesive way of operating. Okay, the STORIS conversion, the gift that kept on giving or taking, depending on your perspective. So you were on the STORIS conversion team, and I'm sure that you have some vivid memories about the first half of 2015. I know you talked vividly about the Great Recession, but we acquired the Asheville and Arden stores in that market in early January of 2015. Then we converted to a new ERP system, I think about mid-January, January 14th or so of 2015. And then a couple weeks later, we broke ground on a new distribution center in Fort Mill, South Carolina, and corporate campus. And then all the wheels kind of came off. And it's not like we didn't prepare for this conversion for 2 or 3 years. I mean, I have some ideas about what we got wrong, but what do you think we got wrong with that conversion from your perspective?
That's a hard question to answer. I was a part of the team, and it's really hard to see when you're so entrenched in a process and everything that was happening. Plus, we were working, our regular jobs in addition to these core team jobs. I really feel like probably if we had been able to focus just on that core team work and not have to split our time like we did. And you talk about Petri dish. We were in a room with no windows for days and days on end. And I think they would even bring lunch in with sterno. And I mean, it's a wonder we made it out alive. Anyway, I think just really being able to focus 100% on what we were doing because it was so important would have probably helped to make that go a little smoother.
That's 100% what I would say. And I think there's a great business lesson in focus. And you're going to pay more for it not doing that. And one of the biggest regrets I have, and probably one of my biggest failures, was not identifying that we needed to invest and take our best, because we had our best people like you, and essentially felt like we beat you guys up. Like we said, you're going to do your day job, and then you're going to go do this other job that's super critical. And if you don't do this right, everything's going to collapse. But you still have to do your day job, and we're going to still keep growing because we just did this acquisition. We're going into this new distribution center, and we weren't prepared for it. And then we did. We did break all of our bones. I mean, and so I take a lot of responsibility for that. And I would never want to. If we were to do it again, we have to take people out of the job and invest in getting people to backfill those roles, and that's the right way to do it. And but we'll get to the other side of that. But did you ever think that we weren't going to make it in 2015? Honestly,
there were a couple of times. There were a couple of times that I thought it was probably not going to be able to be recoverable, just in the issues we had with delivery, and then the issues that we had months after with AR and customer deposits because we were so not prepared for what we were looking at. And we knew what our customer deposit balance should be. And it was this inflated number. I want to say it was 2 or 3 times what it should be. And we really had to dig in and audit those things one line by at a time. But yeah, there were some times where I wondered if this was not the end. And I have such a tender heart, and I have, I'm such an empath that, I felt like the blame was mostly mine. I was like, I didn't think of this. Why didn't I think of this? So that's my burden to bear. But it's nice to hear you say what you said and how you agree that we should have been split for that time for the conversion and then past that, because I still think we need like an aftercare team post-conversion.
Well, I also have a lot of guilt because I know that a lot of our key people internalized, that they took it as their responsibility or that it was their fault. And I never thought that and never believed that. And I hated that they had that guilt for something that like I was responsible for. And so if I haven't said that enough, we're doing this live here on this podcast and getting this out in the open here. So, but well, how do you think we ultimately changed the news?
I think you changed the news because you rolled up your sleeves. You had those. I think they were biweekly meetings. The
April 1st, 2015, we started every Wednesday at 8 a.m. the Change the News meetings.
Yes, change the news.
Yeah, change the news. We had to get everyone in a room, and we were going to do the Change the News meetings.
Right. Yeah. Right. I think that played a huge part in getting us back on track. It was not so much the work that needed to be done, but we needed that cheerleader and we needed that leader, especially to say, hey, we got to get this done through any means necessary. And I've always thought really, really highly of Charlie Maloof, but that just kind of solidified in my heart and in my mind what a wonderful leader that you were, because we were in the midst of falling off the edge of a cliff, and here you were with this lifeline. Let's pull it back. We got to pull it back. We got to pull it back. So I think you were instrumental there.
Well, I don't know that I would necessarily agree with you on that. I don't know that I had any other choice, but that's very kind of you to say. And, we had great people who I knew could solve the problem. And we just had to pull everyone together and figure it out. Like I knew we could figure it out, and we did. Right. And so then we had this thing called the Bold Reset.
Yes.
And so the Bold Reset from late June or July 2015, and we love a challenge, right? So it was a 100-day challenge. This is when we kind of started doing these challenges. So do you remember the Bold Reset, and then what do you remember about it?
The announcement that you were going to be president and CEO, that the previous owners were moving to a different type of role or out completely. And I knew we were in for quite a ride. I mean, I knew your enthusiasm and I knew your heart for the business and the people. So I knew we were in for quite a ride. I just had no idea how far it would go. I remember it very well. I think I even sent you a Bible verse. I think it was from Romans about go boldly because of the bold reset. And it was a memorable time for me.
Yeah, I got a lot of great messages. I do remember that message. Yes. And I need to go back and find that laptop with the 2015 messages. But those were so encouraging to me and to have just the belief and from people like you who I thought so highly of. And then we did it.
We did.
And then we changed it, and it all started to work. I mean, everyone kind of chipped in, and we rallied. And another key person who helped us was someone who joined around that time, right before, Bill Woodman. Right. And so Bill Woodman joined us. It was in May or June 2015. He started as a contractor. I think he was working like 7 days a week as a contractor. And he's really worked with you in the finance department to completely overhaul the department and the way we operate since coming on board. So what has his leadership meant to you and to our company, in your opinion?
Oh, this may be hard without being emotional. Bill came at a time of great, upheaval for us and chaos. He came as a contractor, and in the middle of his, him getting there, our controller or VP of finance decided to leave. And again, it was just like, how much more can we be kicked here? But he stepped into that role. He taught us, before we were never even able to touch the balance sheet. There were things that we just had no idea outside of, daily transactional duties that we just never were allowed to touch. He took each one of us and he elevated us. He believed in us. He built this confidence in us, and he still has to work on me sometimes for that confidence. But he has really been a mentor, and I mean, just a great partner to have. It's probably the best boss I've ever had.
Well, I wanted to ask about him because I don't think you can understate what he meant to the team and our finance department and to our company and the timing. You have to have great financial optics and great rigor in your finance department and accounting department. It takes great people and great leadership, and it empowers the leaders to be able to do what they need to do so that you can trust the numbers. And again, that's a great business lesson. I love what Keith Cunningham talks about in The Road Less Stupid, which is subtitled Advice from the Chairman of the Board. And just keeping the lug nuts tight and having great financial optics. So, okay, let's switch gears to purpose, organizational purpose specifically. Ours is furnishing life's best memories. What has this shift to a purpose-driven organization been like for us? And what does it mean to be purpose-driven, in your opinion?
I really feel like it's given us a roadmap to where we need to go. We talked, I believe it was last year, we talked about vision casting and what we wanted to look. I feel like for so many years we were heads down, blinders on, and we weren't looking around at what else is out there and what's on the horizon and what's coming at us. And I really feel like being a purpose-driven company, like what we started in 2018, that has really helped with that, to look around to see what's on the horizon so we can be better prepared for it. And I think that, most of our growth can be attributed to that, especially our recent growth.
So you've noticed a real change since we made that shift and adopted a corporate purpose, or were some of those elements always present just underneath the surface, ready to...
I believe they were always there. I believe they were present. I think they were kind of, like you say, bubbling underneath the surface. It just took somebody to kind of bring them up and wrangle them all together and put them in the forefront, because, and you can think back in 2015, culture was not such a buzzword that it is now. I mean, I think it was just starting to come up with tech companies and things like that. So, I really feel like it was always there. It just took somebody to bring it up, polish it off, and present it to everybody. And they say, that's what I've been feeling. So.
Oh, cool. Very cool. So do you recall the August 2018 Leadership Summit with Joey Ryman, who wrote the book, The Story of Purpose, and Inky Johnson, when we had the big reveal of our organizational purpose?
I do. I have to say that was one of my life-changing moments.
Really?
Joey Ryman, listening to him talk about the, Diana Nyad and the Swim in the English Channel and the Secret, Fight Like a Girl. At the time I had an 11-year-old daughter who I saw those things happen to. They lose that confidence. They lose that childlike confidence and around that same age. And it just really stuck with me. I guess it kind of showed me that she's learning from what she sees, which is me. And I had I didn't have that confidence. I didn't have that boldness. I didn't have anything that I should have had as a mother, as a parent, as a role model for her. So I've tried to work on that myself. And I think it's helped her immensely. She's 15 now. She plays the cello beautifully, and she's unashamed of it.
That's awesome.
And it really changed my life. And Inky Johnson, I mean, I could listen to him all day. I still follow him on social media. I listen to everything he has. He'll actually bring up some of the Broad River clips every now and again. They'll repost. Just hearing that story and what he came from, that adversity, and thinking he had all his days planned out, and then that last game just changed everything. And how he wanted to be mad at God, and he was mad at God for a little while, but he found his purpose in that tragedy. And it really changed my life.
And you never know when you take time to develop in all of your leaders how that will really manifest. Right. And it could just be at a personal level back home in their families, which is ultimately going to make them a better person and probably more fulfilled at work because they're a better parent or a better leader, more confident. We're going to put in the show notes, we'll put the link to the Joey Ryman YouTube clip and the Inky Johnson YouTube clip, because we have them, we share them. And Inky has a podcast now too, Serendipity.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. Okay. So what about the following year when the PAC, the Purpose Activation Committee, planned Purpose 828, our first Purpose Summit. We changed the Leadership Summit to a Purpose Summit. What do you remember about Purpose 828?
I can remember that one very vividly too. I remember the speakers. I still follow Justin Barnes on social media. Everything that he says is just so uplifting to me. And it, most of the time it's on time because he's a pastor as well, right? Or he
actually works in retail, but he does speak at his church.
Speaks at his church, right? Justin Jones Fosu, he was one of the last ones, and he is super fun. Again, when I say I felt like back in 2008 that my being part of a team was solidified. I felt like a family. Like I felt like I was the cousin that you would invite to Thanksgiving dinner because I was sitting at the table with the, sales managers and store managers and executives and members of my own team on that day. And we were all just hanging on to these knowledge bombs that were being dropped on us. And it was a great day.
That's great.
I miss those. Oh, I miss those.
We're going to get back to them. We'll put those links in the show notes as well. So what have been some of your other just couple best memories at the river?
One of my best was winning the Influencer Award in 2019 at the 2020 gala that we had before everything shut down. I knew ahead of time that I was going to win an award, but when they called my name, just hearing that applause from, and there were a lot of retail folks there. So if you get applause from retail folks, you've done something right. Oh, yeah. And that was a really proud moment for me.
Yeah.
Really
so
good
powerful.
memory.
So powerful, and to let people feel those celebratory moments. And the team that put that gala on, we still have people talk about it. It was a phenomenal night. So who have been some of your all-time favorite memory makers who you've been able to work with over the years?
First and foremost, Steve Carey. He was on the STORIS core team with me, and I got to know Steve Carey very, very well. I know all of his kids' names, his wife's name, his dog. But he was a mentor to me. He believed in me before Bill came along. He saw a lot in me, and he helped to develop some of that. He was just one of my favorite people, and he never not had a smile on his face.
The nicest guy in the world.
The nicest guy in the world, and Mr. Dash.
Mr. Dash. He created the DASH acronym, everyone.
I think back to the early days, Jackson Moore with his laid back, he was tall, he was laid back, he had this loud booming voice. He was one of my favorite people. And then Jonathan on the other side was more ordered and more quiet and more cerebral, I guess you could say. And just thinking back on some of those days it's really special to me. Yeah.
Those two guys are great guys and set a great foundation for us. And I just saw Jackson and his wife in Nashville a few weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah, he's doing great. Nice. I'm gonna send him this podcast. Let him hear what you just said about him. Okay, the financing queue, aka the waterfall. One of your main responsibilities, you talked about it earlier, is managing all of the fundings and making sure that the money is coming in as it's supposed to. A very critical component of a business like ours, or any business for that matter. And so what has changed with the management of our financing vendors, with this financing queue and this way that we fund now through the STORIS financing queue?
So again, it was taking 7 or 8 vendors and putting them all in one spot so that, everybody had the chance to be run through the same. We weren't leaving dollars on the table because we could not communicate with regional or smart sales and lease for folks who didn't qualify for our primary providers. And how it's changed, it's been so much easier. It's such an efficient process. STORIS makes it easier for us to do that and to get that guest in with that application and to get it through as quickly as possible. They're not standing there waiting, like in the old days where you're waiting on a credit decision and you're like little beads of sweat popping out on your forehead. This is almost instant. And I really take a lot of pride in keeping that up because I know if that goes down, then the stores aren't they're not
Right.
operating efficiently.
Yeah, you do a great job.
Thank
Always managing the dials on that. Anytime we need
Yeah.
to make edits and changes. So there's the front end application, which is the universal credit app, and then the funding, the automated funding. So what impact has the automated funding part had on our ability to prevent write-offs, losses, and to ensure that we get the money in from our financing providers?
Right. So it happens automatically. Before in the old days, we drove our covered wagons to work, and then we funded on a terminal called a hypercon. So every sale that was delivered, you punched in numbers. There was a lot of room for error. There was a lot of room for duplicates. It was just not a great process. But now it all happens automatically. So when that sale is delivered and billed out, STORIS will go out and talk to the finance company and pull that money in for us, and we get paid within a couple of days. It's just made us much more efficient. We have less room for errors. We perform our audit prior to delivery, so we don't have those surprises when it comes time for that communication with those finance vendors for that funding. So it's made a world of difference in our department.
Yeah, so critical. Well, we've talked a lot about company change and growth, and it certainly hasn't been linear. There's been peaks and valleys. And since you've joined the company, other than what you've already discussed, I want to just kind of know and pick your brain on how the company has grown, adapted, changed overall in your department, and then kind of what highlights or milestones really stand out for you, and what accomplishments and accolades that we've received that you're personally most proud of.
I think the change has just been the growth in everybody. I was in my early 30s when I started. I think you were along the same age. Charlie and I are about the same age, and just the growth. Charlie used to be the king of the 1 a.m. email, and we don't get those so much anymore. And just the growth in knowing that once you build a solid ship, it's going to stay afloat so that you can step away and let somebody else take the controls for a little while. And then when you get back up, you get back at the helm, you're good. I think just the personal growth that I've seen in everybody that I've worked with for such a long time. I have some of the longest tenured employees of Broad River on my team, Lynn Bass and Tira Thrower. And I think just seeing them go from having a job to blooming into a career has been really, it's been worth it all for me.
Yeah, I remember hiring so many of these folks, and you bring them in at a starting hourly wage or something, and then you just see, gosh, they grow their income, they grow their confidence, they grow their abilities, and it goes back to like just this whole word I'm fascinated with, which is potential, and not seeing someone for who they are, but who they can be, or who they should be, or who they will be.
Right.
And it just goes into having a growth mindset and leading from the front with that. We have to have leaders who are growth minded, who are going to invest in themselves, who are going to mature and develop, and so that we can model that for the next generation to come after us.
I agree.
Just a quick icebreaker question to get to know Hope Stocker a little bit better.
Okay.
Not that we haven't gotten to know you well so far. If you think back at you've hung up your retail accounting cleats, you're sitting on your front porch drinking lemonade or iced tea or whatever your beverage of choice is, and you're talking about the good old days and Steve Carey and Bill Woodman and Brad Neff and just talking about Tira and Lynn and everything else. And people are going to talk about you, and they're going to remember you, and 3 words can come to their mind. What 3 words do you want to come to their minds to describe you?
I would have to say humble, wise, and weird.
Humble, wise, and weird.
Right. So I don't like the spotlight. I would much rather elevate somebody else and put them on the pedestal that they deserve to be. So Matthew 23:12, those that humble themselves will be exalted, and those that exalt themselves will be humbled. And I keep that in the back of my mind all the time. Wise, I kind of went back and forth between smart and wise, but there are a lot of smart people who are just not wise. So I want to be known as a wise person. I think every report card I had growing up was Hope needs to think before she speaks. And Miss Johnson, I want you to know I took that to heart. So somebody who's wise always thinks before they speak. And weird. Life is too short to be put in somebody's box, that to fit into this box or an idea that somebody has of you. I have undiagnosed ADD, so I have varied interests, and I flit from one thing to another. So yeah, I tend to be a little weird. I like movie monsters and I like Broadway and I like to watch cooking shows, but I don't cook. So yeah, just a little weird.
That's great. Well, what some people may not know is when I worked with Jonathan, and his persistent prayer was always for wisdom, praying for wisdom. And there's a lot of discernment that comes from wisdom. And I hold Matthew 23:25, just a few verses later, is what I try to remind myself all the time and to guide me. Okay. Unsung heroes. I know that it always takes a village to achieve the level of success that you've achieved. So who are some of your unsung heroes in your world? Tell us what they do or have done to help you.
Okay. The first would be my mom. She was a single mom from the time I was 12 on up. She actually lives with us now. She has macular degeneration, is probably about 80% blind, but it hasn't stopped her. She still gets out and, piddles in the yard. She helps with our laundry. She makes sure she's home when the kids get home from school. She's not let that stop her in the least bit. My husband is another one. He was diagnosed with diabetes a couple years ago, and as of February, we decided to take back our health and our life, and we've lost a combined total of about 60 pounds since February. Amazing. We're exercising, we're eating right. Thanks, Weight Watchers. But yeah, he has decreased his diabetes medication by about half every day.
That's awesome.
We're looking forward to not having that. And just the Steve Careys and the Bill Woodmans, the ones that saw what I was and believed in me enough to push me and keep pushing me. And I do like to push back sometimes, but eventually I see it their way. So, those two guys, that they'll never know what they mean to me.
Well, to have someone who believes in you is just one of the best gifts that anyone can never give to someone else.
Right. And it's not like, I know that there are people in the organization that believe in me, but for them to say it and to keep saying it until it gets into your thick skull, it really means a lot.
Yeah, I believe it. What's the best advice you've received?
Again, Steve Carey. I hate to keep going back to Steve Carey. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
One bite at a time. If
you have this huge project or this huge issue that you need to work through, you just got to take one step. It really is true, and it holds true for a lot of different things in your life. Yeah.
You can't boil the ocean.
No, you cannot.
Just try to win the day. So if you could go back to that younger self in her early 30s and say, tell her what life is going to be like at the river, what would you tell yourself?
Hold on, stick it out. There's going to be a time that comes that you look back and I have a life now that I never dreamed possible for myself, and I hate to be emotional.
That's okay.
And I owe a lot of that to first to God, and secondly to Broad River.
That's awesome.
I did not have a traditional education. I had a lot of real world experience. I ended up having a child very young. I was a single mom for many, many years, and I struggled. When I came to Broad River, I was about to get married. I wanted a normal life, and I had no idea that doors that would be open for me, and I'm eternally grateful.
Well, you have you're going to understate what you've meant to Broad River, and it's like times 10 what you feel that Broad River owes you is what we owe you, or maybe times 100, or maybe 1,000. I don't know. It can't be overstated. Okay, switching gears to culture. We're obviously biased, and we believe that we have a culture that's really unique and special. But what is your favorite thing about our culture here at the River? And in your opinion, what is it that makes our culture special?
I hate to use a cliched word, but the family. I like to think of ripples. And before we had, such a culture-centered business, we would make small changes, and you never would think about the ripples. How is something in ops going to affect accounting, or something customer care is going to do? How is that going to affect retail? But now we're more of a closer knit family, I guess you would say. So those ripples, we talk about those before they actually happen, and that collaboration, and that's one of our core values as well. I think that kind of lends to that feeling of family, and those, making sure we catch those ripples before they get to be huge waves. But really just the family, that feeling of you can't put your finger on it.
Yeah, no, that's great. You talked about the journey you and your husband are on personally, and it might even align to our word of the year being thrive. Well, what does it mean for you to thrive?
You can survive, and I feel like we've just survived for the past 2 years through the pandemic. And like I said, when I was at home, there were days I got 2,000 steps on my step counter because I just wasn't moving. I would go from the bedroom to my desk set up, go to the kitchen for lunch. I was getting very few steps, and I put on a lot of weight. And that was just a survival mode. I was just surviving. I wasn't living. We enjoy going out and doing things in our, community. We have, the town we live in has a great downtown area now. It's all revitalized. We enjoyed going down there, listening to live music on the weekends. And, of course you couldn't at that time, but even when it opened back up, we just didn't go. So you can survive, but to thrive means to live and to live well. And not just, going out and doing fun things, but making sure that you're taking care of yourself. And that's what thrive means to me.
I like to say, before you can lead others, you have to pull that oxygen mask down for yourself first. Hey, what is something about you that would surprise your fellow memory makers, other than being weird?
Other than being weird, I have a head full of useless knowledge, and I would challenge anybody to a Jeopardy duel.
Oh, I would love to see you and my wife compete.
I am a trivia buff. I'm a history buff, and I can pull out random facts. I know how many windows are in the Statue of Liberty. I know what the chemical symbol is for gold, and that a hashtag is called an octothorpe. So
okay.
I know a lot of useless stuff. If I could parlay that into gainful employment, I think I would. But until then, I'll just be retail accounting.
Jeopardy! We gotta get this woman on your show. I can't wait. Okay, if you could change one thing about the company today with the wave of a magic wand, what would it be?
Slow down just a little bit. Let us catch our breath. I've always thought we don't do anything unless our hair's on fire, and that's a good way to be. But let's slow down. Let's do a little bit of that vision casting again. Look around and see what's coming on the horizon, because it's still uncertain waters out there.
That's great. And so let's say it's my time to retire, and you've done such a great job. I'm going to give you the keys to the company, and you're the new president and CEO of Broad River Retail. And today's your first day in your new role. What would be your first order of business?
Oh, man. Well, it would have been to get rid of that semester PTO, but that's been done. So, I'm going to bring back Purpose Summits. I want that Purpose Summit. I want that feeling again in that room. I want to be outside in a tent or wherever we need to have it, but I want that Purpose Summit back. That's amazing.
Love it. Love it. Hey, what book are you currently reading?
So I said before about undiagnosed ADD. So I have actually 3 on my nightstand right now. One is a Julia Child biography. Okay. She's just such an amazing individual outside of cooking. And it's been a really fun read. One of my son's psychology books from college, it's called The Unfinished Revolution. And it's how kids who are like our generation dealt with their moms being in the workplace. And it talks a lot about mom guilt, because mom guilt is real. Do I stay home? What am I missing out on if I stay home? Do I work? What am I missing out on if I work? And it's been very, very interesting. It's kind of dry, so you can only take small doses of it. But the other one is Signing Their Lives Away. It's about the signers of the Declaration of Independence. Oh, wow. Because I am a history buff, and but these are normal people. These are normal people that put their lives, their land, their families on the line for our country. And I think a lot of our politicians need to read this book, but I digress.
Okay, I love it. Other than this one, do you regularly listen to podcasts?
I do. Actually, while I'm working, I'll listen. I am a huge Office, Parks and Rec fan, so I listen to the Office Ladies podcast. They go back and dissect all the episodes from the beginning. They're about halfway through now. It's really fun, and it goes by really quickly. Crime Junkie, of course. I love true crime. Weird. Mainly I just go back and forth between those two.
I'm such an Office fan. I need to start listening to Office Ladies if that's what they're doing, deconstructing those episodes.
It's hilarious, and it gives you insights to things. If you're a super fan, you know the episodes inside and out. And this just gives you a little bit of a different perspective.
Love it. Hey, what show are you currently binge watching?
So again, Julia Child's cooking show. There's a streaming service called Pluto, and they're all on there from the early 60s all the way up through the early 2000s when of course she passed away. So I've been binging those at night, the Brady Bunch. I don't know why. Maybe it's nostalgia. And then I'm going back to Downton Abbey now because the movie is about to come out, the second movie. So I'm going to give it a rewatch. And
so what do you like when you stop working for the day? What do you like to do for fun or just to relax?
Now we take walks. We go to, the parks in Rock Hill there where I live. We take walks. We see what's out there. We go over by Winthrop Lake, and there are a lot of hidden paths in there. So we've enjoyed really exploring those. It goes back to, the greenhouses and just hidden places that you didn't see. So that's what we're enjoying right now.
Got it. Final question.
Yeah.
To someone who's not a memory maker and might be thinking about joining the river, what advice would you give to that person?
Do it. You got to take that plunge. We have built a wonderful place to work. I feel like I'm a cornerstone in that. So you got to do it. You got to take the plunge. If you're on the fence about doing it, whether it be for a different title or money, the things that you're going to get here are worth more than anything that money could put a value on. That culture, that feeling of family. You just got to do it.
Hope, thank you. This has been fun and educational and a full episode. This is Hope Stocker, our retail accounting manager for over 16 years now. She's been with us through almost all of it and from nearly the very beginning. Hey, catch Stories from the River every Wednesday. We drop fresh new episodes, and listen to us wherever you're listening to this one or on YouTube, Apple, Google, Amazon, or your favorite Spotify, your favorite podcast player. And Hope, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Charlie.